And let me welcome you all to the kickoff meeting for the fiscal year 2023 Reaching a New Energy Sciences Workforce, or ReNEW Awards. Congratulations for your awards this year. And we look forward to building community through today's kickoff meeting and having a chance to talk both about some of the logistics for these awards and also get a chance in our breakout rooms to have discussion as well. We're going to start the meeting with a welcome or introductory remarks from the Director of the Office of Science, Dr. Azmarat Assefa-Berhe. We're very pleased to have her present these remarks, and let's get the meeting going.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm thrilled to be kicking off the second round of ReNEW funding, Reaching a New Energy Sciences Workforce. That's exactly what's happening here today. This moment has been a long time coming. For too long, many of our country's institutions of higher learning have been left out of the funding landscape that drives discovery science in our nation, but not any longer. Today, we welcome our second ReNEW cohort, including 40 minority-serving institutions that are taking part in our Office's science goals to broaden participation and advance a diverse, equitable, and inclusive research community. As Director of the Department of Energy's Office of Science, I want to be sure you're aware we're here to support you every step of the way. You are now part of our extended family. Today is all about making connections and building relationships. You'll hear success stories from leading principal investigators funded in the first round. They will share their experiences and address possible questions you and your team might have. We are here for you to extend support and answer any questions along the way. All of this couldn't be possible without the hard work of so many people. I would like to thank the staff that put together this event today, along with our panelists and participants. We appreciate everyone's effort in covering a lot of the nitty-gritty today of the ReNEW program, and especially thanks to the institutions and their partners for stepping up and taking on this challenge. We're very much looking forward to welcoming your students.
With many thanks to Dr. Berhe for that kind introduction. I'm going to start with a few introductory slides, kind of stage setting for our meeting today. The ReNEW program is centered in a broader effort on diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives in the Office of Science. They're briefly summarized here. We have a strong effort that's looking at DOE in the national laboratories. We also have taken a close look at all of our business practices to see where changes should be made. We've published our statement of commitment, and it was somewhat recently updated on our website. And of course, ReNEW falls in here under increasing engagement and participation in all activities across the Office of Science. And then there's interagency efforts that are ongoing. And we have an office that was established within the Office of Science called the Scientific Workforce Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Office. And so all of these are the puzzle pieces that we're putting together to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion and across all of our SC business practices. As a reminder, so ReNEW started in 2022. So this is now the second cohort. And I know we have some folks joining us today from those 2022 awards. They were made quite late in the fiscal year, so it's actually not even been a year since those awards were announced. The first year of the program was $30 million that were appropriated. We had $60 million this year, and our request, still pending before Congress, is for $107 million for this program. The focus is building foundations through structured traineeships for students, postdocs at institutions historically underrepresented in the Office of Science research portfolio. In the first 2 years of the program, each of the program offices that were participating in ReNEW issued their own funding opportunity, but we had common principles that we were looking across all of those solicitations in those first two years. And those included supporting award or program elements that directly address barriers to recruitment and retention, providing opportunities for students to conduct research at the DOE labs, an emphasis that the majority of funding will be awarded to underrepresented institutions as the primary recipients. And of course, we had efforts to conduct pre-announcement outreach and post-announcement webinars to foster collaborations, and announcement being the funding opportunity announcement when we issued those. The Workforce Development for Teachers and Scientists program also is a key partner in ReNEW. When we were kicking off Renew in 2022, they organized over 10 listening sessions with a variety of groups so that we could understand the barriers to participation and craft our FOAs accordingly. They also have their own programs that they're operating under the Renew umbrella that focus on high schools, the Pathway Summer Schools for high schools and early undergraduate students, and then extending the visiting faculty program for faculty research collaborations with the DoD National Laboratories. And importantly for today's session, they are leading the assessment and evaluation for the Renew Awards, and we'll hear from them after this presentation. Just to give you a thumbs sketch of where the awards are that we've made so far, these are 2022 projects. We had 29 in total to 37 institutions, totaling 32 million, which includes some out-year funding. You can see the geographic diversity of the awards, the types of institutions that were involved, and the programs within the Office of Science. This is the Advanced Scientific Computing Research Program, Basic Energy Sciences, Biological and Environmental Research, Fusion Energy Sciences, High Energy Physics, and the Isotope Program. The graphic here just shows the lead institutions for those who have a prime award with some contracts. The subcontracts are not included. Of course, for collaborative proposals, all of the institutions would be listed, as well as all the national lab partners are shown on this map. The 23 awards, of course, we had more funding available, so we have more awards, 44 projects in total to 65 institutions, totaling 70 million, including that out-year funding for awards that are funded over multiple years. And the nuclear physics program had an early start in this area, so they had awards that they were already funding in 2022, but they joined us in 23 and had some Renew awards as well. So we're going to talk about the issues or the topics on this slide in the subsequent presentations, but just to give you a preview of what's coming. We have the special term in the condition that supports our evaluation, which is our next topic here. A reminder that your annual progress reports are submitted in PAMS, but we'll be discussing this in Mike Neff's presentation as well. Some items that you want to make sure that you're aware of. If you have any changes, you want to make sure you reach out to your program manager. Could involve contracting officer approval as well. So just keep these in mind as you're executing on your award. You will have these slides provided after today's presentation, so you don't need to take notes, but this gives you very detailed instructions on acknowledgements. If you can use these, we highly appreciate it. It allows us to do some mining of publication data to figure out where things are being published and do other analysis of those publications as well. And there's some other guidance on news releases and visual presentations. Detailed instructions are also on our website. And finally, please, as Dr. Berhe said, you're joining our extended family, and we would like for you to stay connected. So we do have a Gov delivery list. You can get updates by email or text. Science.osce.gov is our main website for the research community. And there's at the very top of there's a stay connected button, and you can sign up for the relevant lists as you please. There's ones, for example, for funding opportunities or press releases, specific meetings, or even by scientific topic or a particular program office that you might be interested in. So with that, I will stop sharing. And we will turn to our next presenters. So we have our evaluation team joining us. Dr. Ping Ge, who's the director of the Office of Workforce Development for Teachers and Scientists within the Office of Science. And she's joined by Dr. Erin Burr, who is the Senior Assessment and Evaluation Portfolio Manager from the Assessment and Evaluation Group in Workforce Development at the Oak Ridge Institute for Science and Education, or ORISE, as we refer to it colloquially. So Ping, I'll turn it over to you.
Sorry, muted myself. Thank you, Talia, for your introduction. I hope everybody could see my slides correctly. Yeah, thank you. Hi, everyone. I am Pinge from WDTS of Office of Science. It is my great pleasure to speaking to you today. I will be co-presenting with Dr. Aaron Byrne from ORISE on SC portfolio level evaluation for the Renew Awards. I will start with a high-level overview of how WDTS and ORISE Assessment and Evaluation Group work together with Office of Science research programs on the SC portfolio level evaluation. And Aaron will introduce the key aspects of the evaluation plan, including time-sensitive actions for you to expect. We will wrap up the presentation by sharing bi-weekly office hours and the dedicated contact for addressing questions pertaining to the evaluation of your awards. Due to the time constraint, we provide relevant details and background information in Appendix A and B for your reference. My intent here is not to repeat what Talia has already talked about, but to highlight that the evaluation and assessment of SC Renew investment has been an integral part of the initiative from the beginning by design, as highlighted under the FY23 structure. The evaluation effort discussed here is in support of an evidence-based approach for sustained improvement of SC Renew programming by monitoring short-term outcomes, tracking long-term impact across awards from different SC program offices, disciplines, and institutions. I would like to use these graphics to illustrate the relationships among you, the Renew PIs, SC research program offices, WDTS, and the external evaluator ORISE Assessment and Evaluation Group. Your awards are selected and managed by your affiliated SC research program office. ORISE is not involved in the administration of your awards. ORISE will administrate evaluation service to you, and then based on the data and the information collected, ORISE will provide independent analysis about the participants, mentors, and your project staffs, and then their experience with your award to Office of Science. My office, WDTS, coordinates with ORISE and SC research program offices in support of SC Renew evaluation. For your reference, I have included details for WDTS office and then the workforce training programs we manage in Appendix B. A quick reminder here that the evaluation requirements is in the FOA that your award is affiliated with. This means that Renew PIs and their team, mentors, and trainees are required to respond to surveys. We would greatly appreciate it if you could respond to all the evaluation requests as soon as possible. Thank you in advance. Now, I would like to hand it over to Dr. Aaron Byrne to talk about the key aspects of the evaluation. Aaron, please.
Dr. Ga, and thank you all for your time today. I'm happy to have an opportunity to tell you a bit more about the evaluation, which you've heard of through a few emails from us thus far. There's two purposes to this evaluation. First of all, to provide information regarding implementation of the award portfolio. So we're gathering information about the projects and their implementation across the duration of each of these projects so that we can learn what's working, what's not, and use that information for continuous improvement. Secondly, we're working to provide evidence of the merit of the SC Renew initiative. Here, looking at each of the projects to determine how they're contributing to the overall accomplishment of the Renew Award portfolio goals that include piloting new partnership models, such as your projects, that are designed to increase participation by individuals and institutions historically underrepresented in the SC Renew research portfolio. Incorporating various interventions or program elements designed to overcome barriers for these individuals and institutions. And finally, to attract, train, and retain students in research training and careers aligned with the SC mission areas. Next slide, please. All right. So as Dr. Guy had explained a little bit in the previous slide, we worked, the ORISE Evaluation and Assessment Team worked very closely with WDTS and representatives from the SC Research Program offices to make sure that at the beginning, when we were setting up this evaluation, that we had a shared understanding of what the SC Renew program was designed to accomplish. And once we had that shared understanding, we were able to establish 10 questions that would guide this evaluation. We use those questions to help us identify which data sources we would need to collect data from and what kind of instruments we would need to develop to collect those data. The first 5 of our questions are formative questions or process-based in nature, really looking at the new models that you're exploring, partnership models and program models, and the various aspects of them. The second 5 questions are summative in nature and are really focused more on looking at efficacy and impact on participants and awardees. All 10 of these questions have been mapped to the data sources and methods for collection. You can see a brief table down here below showing that the primary source of data for this evaluation will be survey data so that we can reach out to the various different stakeholder groups to get their input. And I'll talk about some of these other data sources on the next slide. All right, all of the FY23 awardees should have now received an email from the ORISE Assessment and Evaluation Team with 2 spreadsheets attached. And this is a request for you each to look at the faculty, staff, and mentor spreadsheet, which is pre-populated with information drawn from your proposals, and validate that that content is correct. Fill in any blanks where we couldn't find the information in your proposal to fill it out for you. And we understand that between proposal and award of projects, sometimes people changed institutions, sometimes you add people to your project. We just want to make sure that information is also added or corrected on the spreadsheets. That's something that we're using as our input for creating email lists for survey invitations. The trainee spreadsheet that you should have also received is a blank spreadsheet with just the headers, because we don't know who you've recruited, except for those of you who've already returned it to us. But we don't know who your trainees are. If you have this, please fill it out and send it back to us. If you're still in the process of recruiting trainees, just let us know when you anticipate your first set of trainees may begin their appointments. And again, information is basic in nature. We're really using it to provide the SC research offices with information on who these projects are serving, and we're using it to create invitations for the surveys. The third data source that we're going to be collecting from you via spreadsheet is going to occur about a year into your project implementation. We're collecting project implementation status checklists or tracking sheets. And what this entails is another pre-populated spreadsheet based off of your proposal content that contains all of the resources you've dedicated to the project, people, infrastructure, and such, and the activities that you've laid out. And what we're asking is for each year of the project for you to indicate for each of those pieces, did you implement it as planned? Was it partially implemented as planned, or was it not implemented as planned? And we know stuff happens. It doesn't all have to happen as planned, but we want to learn what is successful and attribute that success appropriately and learn from, you know, where there's lessons learned to be shared. We would like to be able to do that. So that'll be about a year in. Next slide, please. All right, so for the big piece of data collection is survey administration, and the trainees will be getting the big amount of these surveys. We're intending to send out pre-surveys to trainees as soon as we possibly can prior to them beginning their traineeship. For those who have an appointment duration greater than a year, we'll send them a midpoint trainee survey just to kind of see where things are. And then upon completion of their appointments, they'll get a post survey. Following their traineeships at 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10-year increments, we intend to follow up with these individuals to find out how they've progressed across the various outcomes of interest in the SC Renew program. You can see some of these listed here on the table on the right. We'll be asking for background and demographic information from these individuals only on the pre-survey. If for some reason we are unable to get them to complete a pre-survey, we may add that subset of questions to a later survey, as it's really important we understand who's being contacted and reached out to so that we can associate the rest of the findings with that. The additional information like outcomes on education, plans and enrollment, career interests and awareness, various aspects of trainee development and overall experience are the other kinds of things that we'll be looking at. For project teams, there are faculty, staff, and mentors. And because all of the project teams are, for the most part, have already been engaged and are already exposed to the traineeship project, it's a baseline, not a pre-survey. So we're sending baseline surveys out to all of the people on those spreadsheets that have been returned to us that are engaged in day-to-day research projects. So not the admin staff, but the people that are really engaged in administering these projects, and they're engaging in the research, as well as mentors who are serving as mentors to trainees. Again, we're going to be asking these individuals for background demographics. We want to know a little bit about their professional networks and how they collaborate, experience with diversity, equity, inclusion, and access. And then depending on the role or potential dual role of a project team member, they'll get certain other questions. We're looking at faculty and staff as a proxy for institutional change. So for people who are in that role, then we're going to be asking a set of questions on current state of DOESC relevant research and current state of institutional research capacity, as well as how they define success. And if you're a mentor, we'll have a subset of questions for you on your experience mentoring prior and then also in the traineeship. You may be serving in both of those roles and get both of those sets of questions. So it'll just depend on what your PI or what you put in that spreadsheet that comes back to us. So we make sure you get the proper set of questions. Next slide, please. All right, so the time-sensitive items are no surprise. You have already received the request for those two spreadsheets to be completed. The faculty, staff, and mentor one would be what we need first. And then again, the trainees, as soon as you have trainees, to return that to us as well. We sent the email to you via an Zix Select encrypted electronic mail system, so that the data that we're sending to you and the data you send back to us are all protected. And you should expect that email, as well as any of our other correspondence, to come from DOESC Renew eval@oru.org. First thing you'll do after we send you the survey invitations is to go ahead and get your team to complete those surveys, baseline surveys. And then the only other reminder I've got here is just, as the project progresses, if you have any off-cycle trainees that leave their appointment early, staff added, just let us know so that we can make sure we get our records updated and give them the appropriate surveys if necessary. All right, next slide. All right, and we are taking our data security very seriously. If you would like more detail for it, please visit Appendix A when you get this slide deck later. It has a nice flow chart showing where we're collecting data from whom and where it's going. All of that is being kept very secure, as I'd mentioned, using Zix Select encryption. It's a free service you register for, and it's what we're using to transfer data to and from PIs and teams. And we are using a single email box, as I mentioned on the previous slide. The DOESC Renew eval is the mailbox that we will be communicating with, whether it be a survey invitation or spreadsheet requests and updates. All right, next slide, please. All right, and as Dr. Gus said, this year we are implementing bi-weekly office hours that will start this Wednesday from 3 to 4 Eastern time. And we'd love to answer anyone's questions and help them with anything that they would like to know about the evaluation. So please feel free to join us. I guess there's one more slide though to remind you of that email. And that is all I've got. So Ping, do you want to see if there's any questions at this point, or?
Yes, let me take a quick look at the chat. I'm not seeing any questions has been sent through chat. Yes, one question asked, can you please send us this slide? Yes. So after this, the whole slide deck, including the 2 appendix, will be distributed to all the PIs in today's meeting. Thank you.
Okay, maybe give it 30 more seconds if there's any more questions.
Hello, can I ask a question? So I'm Thomas Searles. I'm at UIC. Thanks a lot for your great presentation. And I did see the emails, but one of the questions that I had from those emails initially was that at least in my review, there are multiple like sub people, even though they get their own contracts. That's caused for a fact of like the start date for me, maybe not the start date for the other 5 institutions, right?
Yes.
So I didn't exactly know how to handle counting of trainees for the entire program, if each individual award is kind of treated differently. So for instance, if it was like a award and I had and it was sub-awarded, then all the evaluation of that award would be done by one person. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think a common question that we've seen is that when there's multiple institutions with subawards, that we're usually putting this request out of the PI, the lead PI of the project, and that's who we would receive the spreadsheets from. So it would be on that PI's responsibility to collect updates from the other partnering institutions as they receive them, if they have trainees at a different point, and to communicate with the evaluation team so that we can know when to expect another institution would have some more trainees added or more staff. But excuse me, ultimately, we're trying to maintain a single point of contact. If you need to delegate that to a different individual other than the lead PI, we are absolutely comfortable with working with people who are representing a point of contact for the evaluation team. But I do understand that not all institutions are on the same recruitment cycle and their trainees are on some potentially different cycles. We just need to know primarily before those trainees start so that we can get them a survey at the appropriate time. Does that help?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
There was another question in the chat, and I think Ping saw it. Okay, I see. There is a shared question, which is interested in knowing what the metrics for success will look like in our project. That's a question from Megan Lasorsky.
Yeah, should I expand or?
Yeah, please go ahead. So please, in case you want to ask a question, you can do it orally or you can use the chat. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, yeah, so our team was interested in looking at, what type of metrics will be used to evaluate our scientific and training work, since this award is a lot different than other DOE awards in the past, and there aren't, since the 2020 awards or 2022 awards have only just been around for a year. We don't have any previous examples of success to build upon to try to tailor how we move forward in our work, other than just how other DOE awards work. So we were just wondering how that will look, and how to kind of make sure that our efforts are targeted correctly to have the best kind of chances for success as we move through the project.
Yes, so let me give a try. Please look at this. Am I still sharing the screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So I'm now in the Appendix A. To your question, measure of success. Usually for evaluation, we use a logic model to show that what kind of data we collect for immediate outputs, short-term outcomes and the longer-term outcomes, that what kind of data and indicators we would focus on, defined as measure of success. And it may be too small for you to read every word, but as you can see, success can be defined for different stakeholders involved in the project, such as faculty and staff, trainees, institutions, and essay program offices. And for each of these important stakeholder groups, we have specific indicators for measuring success of an award or the program. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, I think this helps a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so you will get all this information, and then if you want to discuss more, even go through each of these data points, please come to join us for tomorrow's office hour. We'll be glad to talk with you on that. Yeah.
There is one more chat question from Nick Pohlman. Do you want to pose
can.
the question in person, or do you?
It's just at what level of detail in terms of updates are necessary on the spreadsheets?
I think that us knowing who the mentor is just helpful context, again, confirming that people are actually serving as mentors, because there's sometimes people are proposed as a mentor potential. If somebody gets matched with them, it varies project to project. So we're just trying to keep that information up to speed and help us make sure they're getting the right survey information. But start and end dates are the key pieces so that we know when to send them appropriately. And just the contact information. But if people change institutions, often they change emails. So that's another piece of why it also matters.
Thank you.
I think I'm handing now over again to Talia.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll move on to our next presentation. We have Mike Neff, who is the lead grants management specialist in the Office of Grants and Cooperative Agreements within the Office of Sciences Consolidated Service Center. And he'll be talking about our federal grant guidelines. Mike?
Hello, can everyone hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, great. Does everyone see my slides?
looks great.
Okay, good. Hi, my name is Mike Neff, and I'm the lead grants management specialist in the Office of Grants and Cooperative Agreement. We're in Lamont, Illinois, and we partner with the program to make sure that your awards are administered. The grant specialist gets back to you with any questions you have about the day-to-day administration of your award that's non-technical in nature, but has to do with your reporting requirements and special terms and conditions. So I just wanted to go through and give you a few do's and don'ts with regard to, let me get out of here. Here we go. Do's and don'ts about your awards, your renewal awards. So again, our office's mission is cradle to grave. We review the FOAs that you apply under. We administer the awards. We close out your awards, and I'll go through all that timeline and the requirements that you will be dealing with as you're going through the process of your award life cycle. So again, you just had a great presentation from Dr. Burr and Dr. Gay about the technical aspects of reporting. So the flip side of that is the administration side with our office. And when you get your assistance agreement, you'll have the contact information for your specialists on page 2 of your assistance agreement. You have all their contact information, and we encourage you, for everything that's not technical in nature, to contact our office if you have any questions about reporting requirements or your special terms or the administration of your award. Please reach out to our office, and we're happy to work with you on that. I wanted to show this. This is from our special terms and conditions for the Renew Awards, and this clause on the first page shows all your attachments and all your special terms, and also the national policy requirements you have to adhere to, other program regulations. It's all right there in that clause. So it's kind of just a little primer of everything that you need to administer your award. And like I said, I wanted to go through some do's for as you're administering your award. Please read and understand all your award documents. If you have any questions, reach out to the grants management specialist in our office. So our advice is that you adhere to the grant agreement to the best of your understanding. And if you have any questions, reach out to our office to clarify any anything that's unclear to you. So, and another thing I wanted to draw your attention to that's specific to the Renew Awards is the clause FATC 0074, and that talks about the reporting that Dr. Burr and Dr. Gay talked about that are specific to this funding opportunity that you've received an award for. And in parallel, the reporting requirements also talk specifically about the reporting requirements associated with that data collection. So that's where you'll find the email address that you need to send those into and the timing under which you need to send those reports. I know someone asked a question about sub-award reporting. Well, the reporting that needs to be done, it has to be done within 90 days annually. So if the annual period ends, you have 90 days after that. So that's kind of designed as a buffer for you to make sure that everything is included in that one report. So, and then, as I said, we encourage you to meet your reporting deadlines. That will keep you in good stead with your program requirements and your award administration requirements. We also encourage you, make sure you're drawing down your funds in accordance with your accounting practices, and almost everyone is going to be on ASAP. You could be on invoice, but only if there are some funds control issues that need to be addressed. But most people are going to be on ASAP, and make sure you draw down funds in accordance with your own financial systems that you have in place. And then we encourage you to expend funds as specified in your approved budget and budget justification, and those are spelled out in 2 CFR 200 and 10 CFR 605. And we understand that as your award goes on, things might change and you might need to reallocate funds. So there might be issues that require the contracting officer's prior approval. That's when you reach out to your program manager to make sure they concur with any changes. And then our office is the one that will then approve those changes if we believe they're warranted. So, and then we also encourage you to document and segregate all your expenditures accurately. And if you have any questions about that, that's discussed in more detail in 2 CFR 200-302. Other dues, stay within your approved budget limits. That means expend your funds during the budget period in question. Make sure if you have that you're regularly monitoring your expenditures. And another big thing is accurate and timely reporting of your financials, the SF 425 reports, and those need to be submitted quarterly. So those need to be reported within 30 days after the end of the quarter, within 30 days. So, and you will also have single audit requirements. This used to be called the A133 audit requirements. And we encourage timely submissions of those to the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. If you have any questions or difficulties with that, please contact our office. We can assist. And then we have a small list of cautionary do nots. Do not do this. Do not use your grant funds for an unauthorized purpose. If you need to rebudget, like I said, reach out to our office. If you need to shift funds among direct cost categories, we can assist with that. Please don't fail to meet your reporting requirement deadlines. If you know you're going to be having difficulty with that, we understand. Just reach out and let us know, and let us know how much additional time you will need. So, and then make sure you're in compliance with all of your grant terms. Most of them are standard. I highlighted the 2 that are specific to the Renew Awards. So, and then make sure you're not diverting funds for unrelated activities. So just make sure everything you're expending funds on is an authorized activity. So if you have questions about that, I'll talk about that, I think, in the next slide. Yeah, as per 2 CFR 200-407, you should request the contracting officer's prior approval if there are any questions about the reasonableness or allocability of certain cost items. And I highlighted what are usually two of the big ones. If you need to revise your budget, and again, there's more detail on doing so in 2 CFR 200-308. Generally speaking, you don't need the contracting officer's approval if the threshold for rebudgeting is less than 10% of the budgeted period. So if you're changing less than 10%, you do not need our approval to do that. If it's over that, you do need the contracting officer's approval to rebudget. But before you do that, contact your program manager to make sure they concur with that, because that's the first thing we're going to do. If we don't see that concurrence, we're going to reach out to the program office first. A lot of people incur pre-award costs. That is permitted with the CO's prior approval. So if you know you need to incur pre-award costs, please reach out to our office and request that prior approval. So other cost items that you might have questions about are included in these references on this page: taxes, travel, entertainment costs, equipment, cost share, participant support costs, but there are more than a dozen other costs on this page that are mentioned. So I encourage you to keep these references close to hand so you can refer to them. And the other thing that I showed you the clause on the previous slide, one of the previous slides from the special terms that talked about national policy requirements. So those are these are requirements that must either be cross-cutting more than one agency or agency-wide, and they're not program specific. So all applicants and recipients are required to comply with these requirements. So again, that will be found on page 1 of your special terms and conditions, clause 1B. So let's see. And lastly, award closeout. These will be your reporting requirements. Talk about your requirements to the department for your grant at the end of your renew award. So you'll be required to submit within 120 days of the closeout of your award and any invention certificates. You'll be required to submit a tangible personal property report, even if it's in the negative. You don't have any tangible personal property, you still have to submit that report. And then final financial reports, and this is in addition to all your quarterly financial report submissions. And then there's the final technical report that you will need to submit through our OSTE website. So and there are details in the reporting requirements for all of these closeout requirements that we have for you. So I think that is it. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take those, or if you think about the question afterwards, you can email me.
So people are welcome to unmute themselves and to ask the question live. There's a couple in chat.
Sure.
Winco, do you want to say it live or do you want me to read it?
I just want to get a clarification. I think you might have already said that. So whenever there is a reallocation of funds, so in my past experience, I basically just kind of contact the program manager, and the program manager works with the grant administration officer to do that reallocation. So for DOE, do we have to work with the administration also directly, or is it through the program manager instead?
Again, the first step you should, like I said, the first thing that I will do, the CO is the only one who can approve a reallocation. The program manager, while they have a lot of authority, they can't approve reallocation of funds. Only the contracting officer who assigned your award can do that. But you're right, the first thing you should do is reach out to your program office and make sure they concur with what you want to do. And then at that point, you can contact our office and we'll determine if it even requires our approval, because often it doesn't. It's under
Okay.
that 10% threshold, and we'll just send you an email that says you don't need our permission to do this. So
Great. So do that contact with the contract officer directly also. Okay, thank you.
yes, you can do that, and you CC the program manager so that we know you've reached out to him, so we can see his concurrence in a thread or something.
The second question from Naki Jurisic. There's a question
Hello.
about, do you want to say your question?
Oh, sure. Yes. So our grant starts September 1st. Just wanted to make sure that when the Q1 ends, is at a start of the September 1st, so that the first quarter ends November 30th. Is that a correct assumption?
The quarter ends. Are you talking about your like financial reporting, like your SF
Yes.
435s?
Yes.
Those should all be submitted by the government's fiscal year quarters. So it should be December 31st, March 31st, June 30th, September
So
30th.
the financial report would be covering from September through December 31. That's due end of January. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Thank
correct.
you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
And the next question is from Marisol. I think this question is, will you be providing contact information?
I put Michael's email in the chat.
So the answer is yes. We'll move on to the next one. I'm not sure who this person is. Shaman Ara, not sure. So I'll read the question. The recommended project start date was September 1st. However, it took some time to receive the award by the university and complete all the formalities. Can we use the budget from one project period for the next, or do we have to approve that? So I think it's a question about carryover funds because of the late start of getting the award money.
A lot of that depends on when the funds were expended. If the funds were expended during that budget period, then certainly you can. Does that answer your question, or was?
So yeah, it was my question.
Oh, sure.
So yeah, so since that project started date was September 1st, but it's almost we are 2 or 3 months. That's I think I finished all the formalities with my university and all those things. So I'm wondering whether we can use this budget that allocated for this year, from September to December, for the next project period, because already we passed this time, but the money is not available.
Right.
Due to the formalities.
Those funds expended during that quarter would carry over. You could expend them, draw them down then.
Okay. Even for next project period, can I use this fund? Like it will take some time to recruit the trainees and all those things, because we included all the trainees from September, right? But it takes some time. So I'm wondering whether even we can use this budget for the next project period.
I believe so. Paul, you're online with me. That's correct, right?
Yes, I'm Paul Thigpen. I'm the director of the Grants and Cooperative Agreement Division. So the answer to your question, Mike was right. The answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
That being said, if you have a question about anything, just reach out. We're happy to have more questions than less. So
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Definitely I will reach out, because this is my first grant from DOE, so I might have a lot of question and inquiries. Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much. So nice of you. I definitely will reach out to you and also my program manager.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Sure, go ahead.
Is there a percentage for the carryover from one fiscal year to the other?
A percentage of carryover?
Yeah, so if the project late start and subcontracts, so on and so forth, takes time, and you are not able to fully spend in the first fiscal year, but you have the intention to spend in the second or following fiscal years, is there like a 20%, 10% a limit on how much you can carry over to the next fiscal year?
I think that, is that 25%, Paul? Does that number sound right?
No, here's the deal. So so in your awards, you basically are given a grand total, right? So let's just say your award was $300,000 and your award was 3 years. You had $100,000 in the first year, same thing second, same thing third. If I understand your question correctly, okay, you didn't use all your $100,000. Say you used $70,000 in that first budget period, but but now you're into the second budget period. You can still use that money, remaining money from the first budget period, and the same for the second budget period.
Thanks. That was my question.
Yeah, it's not based on a percentage. At the end of your project, though, you know, at the end of your project, yes, either you have to do a no-cost extension or the money will come back. That's how it generally works. So there's not a percentage. We're more concerned with the quality of the work, and we understand that your award may have started late. However, you are allocated that time to certainly catch up as well.
There is a comment from Mike Sarkin and then Paul Sorensen, a program manager. Mike, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I am Mike Sarkin, Director, Office of Sponsored Activities within the Office of Science, and it's my job to help support both our colleagues in the Chicago office in grants and cooperative agreements and in the programs. There is no limit to the funds that can be carried over between budget periods in a research award. However, your program manager may have some pointed questions if the size of the carryover might indicate that progress had been slower than expected. And slower than expected always comes with an understanding that all awards take time to ramp up and reach full activity levels. And therefore, we assume that, especially starting up a brand new effort, there's going to be substantial carryover, especially in the first year. We would hope that as a percentage, it would be a lot smaller in the second and subsequent budget periods. But I'll just share that for some additional nuance into why, especially within the PI community, you may have heard that 20%, 25% is a threshold. Now, there's no threshold, but it's all relative to if the money isn't being spent, presumably the work may not be getting done, and it's the work getting done that at the end of the day is what we're all interested in seeing.
Thank you, Mike. Paul?
I was just going to say, essentially, I think what Mike said is, and you know, the program managers watching this when they look at your continuation progress report. And so we could, for example, recommend a revised budget or talk to you about, you know, why the funding hasn't been going as it has. And so, you know, if a program manager says, well, you know, I think, you know, based on the funding that we have, my priorities are X, Y, Z, and it turns out that they state that you know, it's 20%. That's a decision that they're making, you know, for that specific program. But as Mike said, there's not a general thing, but the program manager will be following it. So you should definitely talk to your program manager about unexpended funds.
Thank you. There is, I think, one more question.
Sorry.
So this is, I'm Shaima Nasri. I'm one of the program managers for Renew in BER. And I just wanted to add that in your first year and in your annual continuation progress reports, you will have the opportunity to explain things, problems or difficulties that you may have faced. And that's a great opportunity to let the program manager know why things may be slower, things have gotten started slower than you expected, and sort of what your plans might be to catch up. And you then in your progress report will also provide an estimate of carryover funds. So basically see that as an opportunity to explain to your program manager what's going on. And if you have real concerns, it's a good time also to say, hey, could we set up a meeting and talk about this?
Thank you everyone for the excellent questions and the presentation. And this now goes back to Talia for the next segment of our program today.
Thanks, Robin. So we're going to end the recording now. That concludes our informational part of the meeting where we went through some of the logistics of the awards.